Welcome back to my channel. My name is Olive and this video is going to be about crow pose. So kind of breaking it down, looking at how we can get into the skill and also using some specific conditioning pieces in order to build our strength around it. So in terms of equipment, what you are going to need is your wonderful self and 2 yoga blocks, and that's all we're going to use. The first thing I'm going to show you is what crow pose actually looks like, and I will give a couple of pointers as I kind of go throughout it. I'm then going to show you a regression of crow pose. So depending on where you're kind of working at, you can either choose the first or the second option. Cool. So to start with, we have the hands down to the ground, about shoulder distance apart. I'm spreading my fingers nice and wide, and I'm trying to push my fingertips into the ground. So I have some control in the front of my hand and in the heel of my hand. So I can quite easily sort of distribute the weight. So for full crow pose, the knees are going to sit above my elbows, sort of to the backs of my triceps, as I rock forwards, lifting legs up, squeezing heel to the butt. Now that's super important. You want to squeeze the heels in so that the feet don't drag you down to the floor. And you're going to simultaneously push into the palms, try to lift the chest, looking forwards, breathing and finding the balance there. So those are a couple of pointers on what you're looking for as you come into crow pose. Everything is pretty much the same as we look at the regression. The only difference is instead of the knees being on the backs of the elbows or the triceps, they're going to be on the outside. So we're going to be really working to squeeze the elbows in, using the muscles on our inner thigh. So exact same setup, hands shoulder distance apart, squeezing the knees to the outside of my elbows or maybe even slightly above as I rock forwards, squeeze the heels to my butt, push through my hands, lift my chest, really nice and active with the muscles on the inner thigh, and then again, slowly come down. So it very much depends on your current existing ability and what feels more comfortable, which one you kind of work with, and just kind of take it from there when it comes to looking at the next skill-related drills. Okay. So I got 3 skill-related drills for you to kind of experiment and practice with. The first one is some floating leg lifts. So like I said, you can do this with the knees either to the backs of the elbows or to the outside. But essentially, you're going to bring yourself forwards, set the arms down, let the knees come down to whatever position, and we're pushing nice and strong into our fingertips. Gazing forwards, and all you're going to do is lift one heel up to the butt, really squeeze in and place it down. And then lift the other and slowly bring it down. And maybe go for a couple of reps here and see if you can start to kind of increase the hang time between the feet. So maybe as one comes down, the other lifts up. And then maybe you find yourself starting to float a little bit more in between. Again, just have some fun and experiment with it, see how it feels. It is quite a hard drill because you're taking one limb away from the ground, so one side might feel a little bit more offset than the other. I'll just quickly show you what it looks like as the regression. So again, same thing, lift and place, lift and place. See if you can maybe get a little bit more hang time between 2. And then maybe a little bit of a lift. But yeah, there we go. That's number 1. The second drill that I'm going to show you involves using your yoga blocks. Now, what we're going to do is take our shoulders down onto the blocks and then find the lift into the legs. So what this kind of skill teaches you is how we can get our feet off the ground without loading too much into the upper body, and then maybe over time we progressively start to push away from it. I'm not going to lie, it is a bit of a faff to set up, and I have seen other teachers use this before and it's been beneficial for some of my students. It might not work for you, and that's totally fine. We experiment with everything and see how we get on. So I'm going to show you how to get into it. I'll show you the full version first and then I'll show you the regression. So have the block on the highest kind of setting. You're going to take your hands nice and close behind it. Now, like I said, it's a faff to get into, so take your time. What you're going to start with is bending the elbows and taking the shoulders down onto either of the blocks, making sure that you're kind of happy with where they are. pushing into the hands. Elbows are kind of at this 90-degree angle. Okay, so from here, we're going to try come up into our crow pose. So we're going to lift the knees, take the knees to the backs of the arms, and see if we can squeeze heel to the butt. And then basically over time, we want to see if we can start to push through the hands and lift the shoulders up and off the block, coming out of the position and finding the strength into the upper body. Again, we can do this in the regression. So I'm going to show you what that looks like first and then give a little bit more of a talk. So down onto the block with my shoulders, letting them rest down onto it, taking the knees either side of my elbows, squeezing in. Now my face is really close to the ground, right? So I want to push it away as much as I can. Lift my chest, look forwards, bringing myself up, and then coming out of it. So I know with the blocks, you're coming into a position that doesn't necessarily look like crow pose. You're coming into quite a deep range for your shoulders. But what it's trying to kind of emulate and show you is how to keep pushing away from the ground and lifting your chest. So you're really trying to tap into that end range strength of pressing from the floor and finding your lift. So like I said, it might work for you, it might not, that's totally fine. See how you get on with it. And that's number 2. Okay. And number 3, we're going to come back to using the blocks, but this time we're going to take them under our feet. Again, this can be a bit of a faff to set up. Be mindful. It might work for you, it might not. This is why I share a variety of different skills. So, you can either have the blocks on the higher setting, the middle setting, or the low setting. I'm going to take them to the middle one. And essentially what we're going to do is stand onto the block with our feet and then start to lift the feet up and off. So, setting yourself up into your crow pose. I will show you the full version first and then the progression as always. Pushing into the floor, knees to the backs of the triceps. And you can do that floating leg tactic, one at a time if you wanted to. Or you could see if you could lift both up and off the block at the same time. But then pushing through, maybe finding your lift. And the nice thing about this one is that you can change up the height of the block depending on your existing ability. So if you were finding it really hard to lift the legs off the ground at the same time from this height, you can just take it a little bit higher. Or if you're finding it really easy, you take it down. And then eventually we can start to find the lift from the floor. So we're just starting to tap into different ranges for our hip flexors and our hamstrings and see if we can come up from the ground at different heights and at different points. So again, see how you feel with that. I will show you what it looks like from the lower setting as we come into the regression. So lower setting, I set myself up, squeezing as always, and then slowly finding my lift. And make sure I'm trying to hit all those markers, pushing through my hands, heels to my butt, breathing, and using my fingertips. And there we go. That's the skill side of the training. So I wanted to show you 3 of my favorite kind of conditioning pieces when it comes to working towards crow pose. Now these are a mixture of strength and mobility exercises that you can do. I'm not going to necessarily prescribe how many reps and sets. I'm going to give a general kind of indication, and I want you to be fairly intuitive with it when it comes to your training. So, first thing we're going to start with are some palm lifts. So you come into your tabletop position. You're going to spread your fingers nice and wide. And then all you're going to do is try lift the heel of the hand off the ground. Keep the fingers and the thumb connected, and you're going to raise up and down. Now, why is this important? Well, we're trying to build strength and mobility into our wrists because we're loading our entire body weight onto this one area. So you need to make sure that they are nice and primed, nice and strong. And we also get a little bit of a pump and activation up into our forearms. So you'll do some heel lifts, and then you'll come back to flat hands, and then you're going to do some finger lifts. So again, exact same principle, press down into the heel of the hand, fingers lift up and down. Again, why are we doing it? Just targeting a slightly different area of the wrist and the forearms, and we're also just trying to move our fingers a little bit more individually. So again, play around with that, see how that feels, and just start to really tap into looking after the wrists into the palms and also the forearms, particularly as you increase the amount of time you spend in an inversion or an arm balance. Cool. Okay. The second drill that I want you to perhaps start incorporating is a tricep dip. So why? It's because we're replicating the movement of the crow pose, also starting to tap into our scapulars, into our shoulder, coming into this deep sort of end range position, and also trying to fire up through our triceps. So come to a bench, come to a chair, whatever it is. You're going to keep your legs bent, you're going to draw and squeeze your shoulder blades together, and then the butt is going to slide off and it's going to stay relatively close towards the bench or the chair. You don't want to slide it away too much. We want to keep the spine into neutral. And again, squeezing shoulder blades together, dropping the hips down, bending through the elbows, go as deep as you're comfortable with so that you can still push back up. You don't want to come to this deep position and then really struggle to press back up. So if we're coming to like a half rep, that is fine for now. Over time, you'll be able to slowly progress. And again, just see how you feel. Go for however many reps. I would probably recommend 2 to 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps in total. If you wanted to make it harder, your legs go straight, still keeping the spine to neutral, and then slowly lowering up and down. And there we go. So the third and final conditioning piece that I'm going to show you is a leg-only Vtuck. The reason I've incorporated this is because it's kind of replicating that position that the legs come into and the spine come into when we're in our crow pose. So we're looking at some real nice core compression and hip flexor activation. So, going to be sitting down with your legs straight. Your hands are going to go either side of your thighs. Usually the further down the hands go, the harder it is. So I tend to start with mine about mid-thigh. And you can either have palms flat or stay onto your fingertips, but you're maintaining this slightly flexed spinal position. And then legs are going to lift off the ground. You're going to draw the knees into the chest, squeeze, 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 and then straighten out. And again, draw in, and then back out. And keep breathing as you go for it. Again, recommendation, 2 to 3 sets, 8 to 12 reps. I'll do one more. Beautiful. If you wanted to make it harder for yourself, just hold here for maybe 3 seconds and then reset. Let's see how you get on with that. Cool. So there we go. Those are my 3 specific skill training drills for you to do and my 3 favorite conditioning pieces for you to do. If you've nailed them all and you've nailed your crow pose and you want to take it further, there is one more thing that you can play around with. You can play around with one-legged crow. So I will show you that quickly before I sign out and it's over to you. So, one-legged crow pose. You come from your crow position and then you see if you can shift and lift one leg up and away and into the air. Don't know if you heard those spinal clicks, but my God, that was very satisfying. But yeah, there we go. If you wanted to work towards that, go for it. I hope you enjoy. Go at it with a playful attitude. Any questions, comments, or feedback, let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys next time. Come on and just be in the video. Special guest appearance from chat. Oh, no, he's done.